All right, and that brings us to our final award, the Ag Hall of Fame Stewardship Award, honoring individuals that are actively displaying exemplary community involvement and enhancing agribusiness through leadership or technology development. This award is sponsored by Basin Pacific Insurance. Would you please help me welcome to the stage Corey and Jared Balcom, who will tell us a little bit about our 2023 Ag Hall of Fame Stewardship Award inductee and their dad, Maury Balcom.
Well, thank you. As he mentioned, my name is Corey Balcom, and I'm here to introduce my dad, Maury Balcom. There's a name correlation if you can't tell here. I'm going to kick it off, and then I'm going to turn it over to my much older brother, Jared, who I might mention is also a Hall of Famer. He got the Young Agribusinessman Award in 2011, and I just need to know if that expires because he's going to freestyle his speech because he said this font is too small for him to read. So, we'll be good. Okay. And then my dad's going to speak, and he's going to freestyle, which is kind of alarming. If you know him, it's going to be scary. We luckily brought Ken Miller, our attorney, and he is going to do damage control after. But just to tell you a little bit about my dad and his engagement in the industry and his impact over the years, he grew up in Tucson, Arizona, a little unusual for the ag business, with his mom, and then spent his summers in Ellensburg on the ranch with his dad. He graduated from Fresno State University in viticulture and enology in 1974 and quickly came back up here to the Columbia Basin to work on the farm. In 1975, he diversified our farming operations by adding a fruit division to include cherries, wine grapes, table grapes, and apples. In 1984, he started his first winery, Quarry Lake, which was later called Balcom Winery. And then he also, in 1984, joined the Class 7 of the Ag Forestry Leadership Program. Today, he is retired. Oh, actually, I was going to add something. There's been a real theme here about ag teachers and ag leaders, and in 1993, we decided to do 4-H. My dad never raised animals. I obviously was 9 years old, and so I want to give a shout out to all of the ag teachers here for the work they do. My ag leader, Mr. Kenyon, is here, and we had no idea what we were doing. We had no clue, and so we are just thankful for all of the work that the ag teachers do in our community. So if you have an opportunity, please support them and their efforts. Today, my dad is partially retired. He lives and works on our farm during the growing season and then spends his winters in sunny Arizona. His service to the industry, tonight he's getting the Stewardship Award. It's basically for all of the service he has given to the industry over the years, serving on numerous boards and committees, some of which include the Washington Wine Growers Board of Directors, the Washington State Ag Commission, or Wine Commission, TRIDEC, and many others. But the most notable is the work that he has done as Board of Director for the South Columbia Irrigation District. We had a debate. He's been on that board since somewhere between 1993 and 1997. Not really sure, lost track, but almost 30 years he's been serving for water rights for everybody in our community. I think no matter what commodity you're in, we all need water, and it's super important to us. And so he's really committed his career and his retirement to continuing that effort. I once had a conversation. He was describing a really complicated water issue to me, and I asked him, man, you seem to know a lot about water. Like, before you started serving in the irrigation district, what did you know about water? And he looked at me and he said, I liked it in my scotch. So I think it's safe to say that after almost 30 years, he knows much more about water than he used to, and he certainly cares more about where it came from. So I'll introduce my brother now, Jared, to tell you a little bit more.
So I'm her brother. but she's just learned a life lesson that you don't throw your brother under the bus and then hand him the microphone. So you'll notice that she said that I'm her much older brother. There's a story behind that, and this is kind of par for our family. Our family likes to have fun, and we like to tease each other, and my dad taught us that at a very young age. I introduce her as my older sister to anybody that I can, and about 90% buy it. And so she's still furious about that, but that will never ever stop as long as we live. My sister did a great job of kind of giving a story and the history behind my dad. So I'm just going to do a couple real quick things. So there's kind of two things that Dad taught us growing up. One is professional, and one is kind of personal. But from a professional standpoint, and Ken Miller's not going to believe this, but my dad taught me and my sister to work really, really hard. Work hard at what you do, love what you do, and put forth the effort. My sister and I took that to heart and work as hard as we possibly can. My dad only works when he has to and has learned how to avoid that. But he's smarter than we are. And I think Ken Miller will agree with that. The other thing is that find something that is a passion of yours. And ag has always been a passion for him. He passed that on to me. He passed that on to my sister. We're both in the ag industry. And he just loved what he did. And growing up, we just learned to watch that. He might come home and complain a little bit, but you know what? He got up the next day and he busted his butt to get done what needed to get done. And he passed that on to my sister and I, which we are super, super grateful for. The other thing is kind of a personal thing that passes on in our company, and we've carried that forward for 4 generations, and that is that family comes first, and whatever business you're doing, you always take care of your employees, and you make sure that family is the most important thing. And my dad passed that on to me, and I'm trying to pass that forward. My sister is trying to pass that forward. And so we as kids, the younger one and the older one, are just super blessed and super thankful for what he did for us and the things that he taught us to move forward. So I think there's a little film here. I don't know what's on it, Dad, but see you on film is going to be kind of good. So I'm going to step away to that, and then he'll come up on the stage.
Started in the industry, I think, when I was basically born, I guess. I started working on my dad's cattle ranch in Ellensburg when I was just a young kid, and worked for him during the summers until I graduated from high school. And then I was sent down to the farm to Pasco here to start work. That was back in 1968. And I loved the work. I loved that, something I always wanted to do. And so after high school, I went to college and got a degree in winemaking and grape growing, and came back up here and wanted to start an industry. A typical day on the farm is anything but typical. Every day is different, and that's what makes it so wonderful. You know, every morning I look out the window and think about what that day has in store for me. Advice I'd give to somebody who wanted to come into my line of work, I hate to say it, but probably don't. But, if people like me that really want to do it. So I'd say take other classes other than agriculture. Business is something that's necessary now, that people who want to be in agriculture have to have. My father was a believer in that you gave back to the community, and he did in his communities where he lived. And it was kind of expected in our company that we did as well. So I started off on the board of directors of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce, for instance. What's the best part of what I do? Everything is incredible. Being outside every day is number one for me. I couldn't survive if I had to be cooped up in an office. I've had a great life, and I really enjoy being able to do what I've done.
So here to present the Pioneer Award is Randy Taylor with Basin Pacific Insurance.
Hello, I'm Randy Taylor, Basin Pacific Insurance Benefits and Bonding. We are so pleased to again sponsor this award, and it couldn't go to a better person. Thank you.
Well, first I want to bring up Jared back up here. Hold that. I mean, we should check our wardrobes. Isn't he cute? I think I'll call him Mini-Me. I love these kids. You know, for a farmer, it's nothing better than to have your kids follow in your footsteps. You know, and Jared's running the farm now, and Corey's over at the WSU Wine Science Center. What a great experience. You know, I grew up in the ag industry. My dad, my grandfather was quite a character in the Yakima Valley. He was a pool hustler, a card shark, and one of the best golfers in the state, and actually state champion. So I didn't get any of those talents, so I had to do something else, and that was probably farming. So I did most of my speech right up there. I don't know where to start now. But I showed up in Pasco in 1968, 2 days after I graduated from high school. Took me 2 days to get here from Tucson because I had to siphon gas along the way because I had no money. But that's all right. I showed up. The next day, I'm working nights, moving hand lines and wheel lines 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. I'm going, is this what I'm going to be doing? And I go, yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing. And I loved it. I progressed from that. I moved up the ladder, the corporate ladder, to loading 100-pound sacks of potatoes. 18 a minute into boxcars. And is this what I'm going to be doing? Well, apparently it is. Fortunately, I don't do that anymore, but you never know. With Jared running the farm, I may have to go back to doing that. So I started in '68. I just wanted to be a farmer, but you know, Vietnam was on my, looking down on me right here, and anything to stay in college. The draft came around, my number was 364. I figured they'd have to draft my mother before they took me. She's Canadian. And I thought, wait a minute, she's Canadian? Well, I don't have to worry. Oh, well. So I came here, I worked, I went back to college, came back, went to college. Finally, Dad realized that I really was, wanted to do this. He was a lover of wine. He loved wine, and he grew up in the Yakima Valley back when, post-Prohibition, and there was still wineries that were making some really quality wines. He says, you want to learn how to make wine? Grow grapes. I go, yeah. He goes, bingo. So off I went to California to get an internship with Winnie Brothers. From there, I went to Fresno State to get a degree in enology and viticulture, and I came back here. All the time during the summers, we were developing vineyards, and this was '71 when there were no vineyards in this area, or actually really no wine grapes being grown that much in the Yakima Valley. So here I am. Well, we didn't know what was going on. We did whatever we could, and we tried to get WSU to help us. We whatever help we could get. A few more vineyards came in, a few more vineyards came in, but not a lot of help from anybody else, you know. And finally we get WSU to help out, and people like Jeff Gordon, who's sitting out here somewhere, and I and a number of people got thinking about what can we do to be able to help this industry out. Well, we finally go, well, what the hell are we going to do? We just keep going along. Meanwhile, my boss, Otto Geisert, who maybe some of you people remember out there, he was kind of a leader in the community and involved in just about everything that there was to do here. He was getting ready to retire, so he started handing off some of his responsibilities to me. One of them was Pasco Chamber of Commerce Board. So I get involved with the Pasco Chamber, that was great. He suggested that I get involved with the ag forestry program. All right, so I get in that. And part of the graduation of that was you had to have this, almost like a thesis program. You had to identify a social problem and also a remedy for it. Well, of course, we're a bunch of lazy people, and we hadn't really thought about what we were going to do. And the last minute was like, oh, hell, the clock's ticking here. We have to do something. So I said, well, we just got in the wine business. We can't afford to do marketing. We need to have somebody help us out. So, bingo, Wine Commission came to mind. And so we thought, well, that's good. And Wine Commission is a pretty easy thing to put together, but we had to complicate it a little bit. We wanted the state to give us back our tax money to support our industry so we can give them more money. Seemed to us to be a very reasonable thing to do, but it wasn't that way when we came to graduation. Our board that was analyzing what we have done were a bunch of legislatures, and they just ripped us a new one. So you want the state to give you tax money back to do what you want to do? Well, yeah, we gave it to them. We want to get a little bit back. Well, they said no. You know, it's not going to work. Anyway, I graduated. That's a good thing. So I took this legislation that we had proposed and talked to Jeff Gordon and the Wine Growers Association that I was on the board of at the time, and they thought it was a great idea. We went to the Wine Institute, handled their lobbying and part of their deal. They thought it was a pretty good deal. So let's do it. And they all look at me and I'm going, what do you mean? Let's, you know. Anyway, so for the next, every week I was in DC or in Olympia trying to put this thing together. And it actually worked. They actually bought off on the fact that they're going to give us our tax dollars back for us to generate more tax money for them and tourism and all the money that comes along with that. Hello, Olympia, what are you doing? You know, you're not smart enough to do that. So anyway, we got the bill, you know, through the legislature and signed by the governor. And that was about 84, I think, or 85. We had 25 wineries at that time. We have over 1,000 now. So apparently what we did worked. And it was pretty good. But the real kicker on the whole thing was that California was the one who was paying all the tax. We only had a little sliver of the market. California's wine tax was paying to develop the Washington wine industry. Now that's what you call politics. So from there, I get a call from Shannon McDaniel, I don't know if anybody remembers Shannon. He was manager of the Columbia Basin Irrigation District at the time. He said, like, our board director, Roger Zaneff, had passed away. Roger had been on the board for like 25 years and never got a drop of water, not a drop. He was out in the boondocks, but this guy was amazing. So I had to fill his footsteps. And Shannon took me under his wing and brought me along. And believe me, the irrigation district is a huge business. And it's so complicated. It takes years to get to know what's going on. And I fought through it. Shannon fought with me on it, and we finally got things, under control, or at least on my point anyway. Got to figure out my notes here. But anyway, so all of a sudden I'm on the board of the Columbia Basin Irrigation District. And for you, I'm sure most of you know what it's all about. But the South District is the lifeblood of this community. I mean, we provide the water that fuels the ag industry here. And the 110 employees that we have there, they're the ones who should be here celebrating this award. They're the ones who provide the water to us to make this happen. And when you look in ag today, and California's out of water. I spend the winter in Arizona. Water, we don't know what that is. Everywhere it's drying up, except for the Columbia Basin. We have more water than we know what to do with. We're sitting on 6 million acre feet of water underneath Pasco today that was provided by the Columbia Basin Irrigation District and the 2 other districts. That water is now becoming available for us to market to other areas. This is a truly amazing thing that we have here. On my time at on the board, we all have our assigned positions, and mine is one of them is on the Washington State Water Resources Committee. We're basically the political arm of all of the irrigation districts in Washington. And I love doing it. I'm in DC every year dealing with all of the politics that involve with water. It's a truly fascinating experience. We have a district now that's getting older in years. We're now, most of our systems are 50, 60, 70 years old. And over the term, I've sat on committees that deal with rebuilding the pumping plants at Grand Coulee Dam. I'm a farmer. I don't know anything about BPA and all this. What I do now is I just sit in front of these people, or, dealing with the ownership of Grand Coulee and the pumping plants and everything that comes down from that. It's truly amazing. I love every minute of it. And I really appreciate my son Jared, who is now on the board with me, and the other board members, J.J. Dans, Charlie Lyle, Dick Conrad, who make this happen, that provide the water that feeds what we do for a living. It's truly amazing, truly amazing. So I probably spent too much time up here, and I really appreciate what Pasco Chamber has done. They've come a long way since I was on the board, that's for sure. So to you, thank you for being here. Thank my family who are sitting out there, my best friends who are over in the children's table over to the right there. But it's really been a wonderful experience for me, and I appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you. Thank you.